Good evening, I'm Andrew Chang. Adrian is off. Tonight, teachers sound the alarm as kids head back to class.
I'm a bit nervous about going with COVID and stuff.
Just days into Quebec's school year, positive cases, students isolated, and in Ontario, teachers say it's just not safe to go back. Biden fires back.
I want a safe America, safe from 4 more years of Donald Trump.
As the president defends one of his supporters accused of killing 2 people on the streets of Wisconsin.
I guess he was in very big trouble. He probably would have been killed.
The race for a potential COVID vaccine. Ottawa secures millions more doses, but will Canadians be willing to get the shot? And the controversial push to fast-track a vaccine.
I think that it is only right that I contribute.
The volunteers willing to be infected with COVID-19. This is The National. Well, kids across the country have been eagerly waiting for it. Parents and teachers deeply worried about COVID-19 are less enthusiastic. But schools are starting to come back online in Canada. Thousands of Anglophone students roared back into class in Quebec today. Most Ontario schools reopen their doors next week, with other provinces close behind. But concerns about safety remain, and teachers in several regions are digging in their heels in a fight to be heard. Now, back-to-school plans are different from province to province, but if they have one thing in common, it's that teachers are nervous. Tashana Reid starts our coverage tonight with a look at how English schools in Quebec are faring on day one.
Mixed emotions on the first day back to school for thousands of Quebec's English students.
I'm a bit nervous about going with COVID and stuff.
I am very excited.
Why are you excited?
Because I get to see all my friends, well, most of my friends.
Well, it's kind of weird, actually. Everybody's wearing masks.
You're on that side of the class, Pete?
For the class of 2021, there will be a lot of adjustments. While many students wear masks, not all are required to in classrooms, nor do all have to physically distance. Since last week, 4 schools in Quebec have confirmed cases of COVID-19. Some 80 students and more than a dozen staff members have been isolated. The government says they are monitoring the outbreaks closely and are willing to shut schools if necessary.
We're investigating every case, every outbreak, and we intervene in the first 24 hours.
The experience in Quebec is a glimpse of what may lie ahead for other provinces. Ontario's 4 major teachers' unions announced they will file challenges with the Labour Board, claiming reopening plans violate workplace safety laws. At issue, large class sizes, ventilation, and school bus transportation.
We have classrooms with not even a meter physical distancing between students or desks. We have school buses that are going to run at full capacity.
Premier Doug Ford had this response to the unions.
The teachers' unions just want to fight. They want to fight with everyone. I don't want to fight with you.
Going to school is so important, but school will look a bit different this year.
Meanwhile, teachers in BC say this ad produced by provincial health officials gives a false impression of what school will look like in 2 weeks.
That was not a commercial about what a classroom was going to look like, and it was an opportunity to answer the many questions that I was getting from children.
The BC Teachers Federation is pushing for smaller class sizes as time runs out before classes resume. Tashana Reid, CBC News, Toronto.
Now, certainly keeping kids safely apart will be a huge challenge. And today, Alberta's top health official responded to concerns that the province has suddenly removed physical distancing rules from the classroom.
I must be clear that the order that was issued this weekend does not change our policy or my advice. Reports that indicate otherwise are not accurate. No policy has changed since mandatory masking was announced on August 4th.
Now, the order says schools do not need to keep students, staff, and visitors 2 meters apart. Upset teachers call that a total reversal, but Dr. Dina Hinshaw says mandatory 2-meter distancing was never part of the original plan. Now, we have infectious diseases specialist Dr. Lenora Saxinger joining us from Edmonton, because Dr. Saxinger, just on the face of what Dr. Hinshaw was clarifying today, that physical distancing will not be required in classrooms, should parents be concerned about that?
Well, I think that there's a fair amount of anxiety around this, and I can understand that. I think the guideline, when you read it, doesn't say there will not be distancing. I think they're saying that no one will be measuring the distance and that they're suggesting it be as much as possible. But you have to remember that distancing is actually one of several things that are going to be happening in the schools. So the hand hygiene, the cohorting, the symptom screening, all actually should be useful, as well as controlling community spread is very important to reduce rates in school. And I think that there's a really strong impression that if a single kid comes into school infected but without many symptoms and doesn't get screened out, that there could be widespread infection in the school. And in fact, that would be the exception, not the rule. Even in households, we see about a 10 to 15% attack rate for people who live together with someone who's infected, and that decreased by these measures. And so I think that there's kind of a gray zone of evidence that we're trying to negotiate as responsibly as possible.
Right. Interesting insight into that. Dr. Saxinger, good to talk to you. And we'll talk to you a bit later in the program as well. Thank you.
Thanks.
Now, safety in schools certainly tied to infection rates across the country. Today, Ontario and Quebec still reporting more than 100 new cases daily. 114 in Ontario, 140 in Quebec. Manitoba's new case count is down slightly today, adding 28, but once again, concerning numbers out of the West. Alberta saw 426 cases from the weekend to today, and BC reported 294 new cases over the last 3 days. So Canadians, understandably hungry for any news on a COVID vaccine. Today, the government secured a major deal with 2 U.S. drug companies, and not long after a partnership with China fell apart. Tom Perry has more.
It's in places like this where Justin Trudeau hopes the fight against COVID-19 can be won. The Prime Minister today meeting Canadian researchers while announcing deals with 2 U.S. firms working on a vaccine.
The Government of Canada has signed 2 new agreements with Novavax and Johnson & Johnson to reserve millions of doses of the vaccines they're developing.
If those vaccines work, Ottawa will buy up to 114 million doses. That's in addition to another 76 million doses it secured in deals previously announced with 2 other firms, Pfizer and Moderna.
We are investing in a diverse portfolio of vaccines to ensure that as the science progresses, Canadians have access to a safe, effective, and proven vaccine.
These potential vaccines work in different ways, and the government says it is looking at other possible candidates. But there have been setbacks. A project with China's CanSino Biologics collapsed when Beijing refused to ship vaccine samples to Canadian researchers. The government also battling fear and suspicion from a small but vocal movement opposed to vaccines or even face masks, and a more general concern that a vaccine may be rushed into production.
So I want to be very clear. Health Canada will not authorize a vaccine unless scientific evidence demonstrates that it is safe and effective.
The government offering assurances it's not cutting corners and won't force a vaccine on anyone.
I have little doubt the majority of Canadians will be wanting to get the vaccine. There will always be some people who are very anti-vaccination, but that's actually a fairly small group in Canada, and I would expect it to remain small for this vaccine.
The hope is that a vaccine can be developed and approved for use in Canada by next year, but researchers aren't there yet, and the work continues. Tom Perry, CBC News, Ottawa.
Now, for an in-depth picture of global vaccine development right now, you can head to cbc.ca/vaccine tracker. There you'll find a list of companies that are working towards a vaccine, what kind of vaccine they're working on, and just how far along they are. Well, the Vancouver Aquarium is closing its doors to the public and laying off more than 200 people as it continues to struggle financially in this pandemic. The layoffs will affect full-time, part-time, and casual positions and are in addition to the more than 330 people who lost their jobs in the spring. Some staff, like veterinarians and biologists, will continue to work, though, to care for the animals. The aquarium has been struggling for months and received $2 million in federal emergency funding in June. Well, tomorrow is Rent Day, and possibly a day of reckoning for many small businesses. For months, they have relied on a federal subsidy for commercial rent, but now it's gone. As Jacqueline Hansen shows us, for some, that subsidy made all the difference.
Michael Erickson says his business has survived the pandemic so far for one crucial reason. He hasn't had to pay his full $18,000 rent.
We didn't know how we would make it, and literally the rent subsidy saved us.
Under the federal commercial rent assistance program, Ottawa covered half, and Erickson and his landlord both paid 25%. But today marks the end of the program, even though business is nowhere near normal.
There's no way that we can pay our full rent on the first of the month.
Today there were hints more help could be coming, but no specifics.
I know that there are many businesses out there who are anxiously awaiting for a response from us, and I just want to assure you we're absolutely working on that.
The Canadian Federation of Independent Business says rent relief is still critical for the fall.
It's unfortunate that we're crashing towards another first of the month with so much uncertainty.
But simply extending the current program again isn't necessarily the answer. Critics say it puts too much power in the hands of the landlord, who gets to choose whether or not to apply.
Take landlords out of the equation and get the help directly to tenants.
There is more money to go around. Today, the Parliamentary Budget Office projected the program will only cost about 1/3 of what was budgeted.
There's room within that envelope to fix the fundamental unfairness that exists.
Stan Yogi still isn't sure if his landlord applied for the subsidy or not. He waited for relief for his downtown Toronto pub, and he says he didn't get it.
He just left us hanging in a thread.
Instead, he got a bill for 5 months of outstanding rent, $156,000. He can't afford to pay it, so after 9 years in business, the pub is closing.
Today is the last day for us, unfortunately. We're going to be walking away.
Any further government help here is already too late. Jacqueline Hansen, CBC News, Toronto.
Well, today, the Prime Minister, Justin Trudeau, said attacking monuments to Canada's first Prime Minister does nothing to advance equality in this country.
I was deeply disappointed by the vandalism that took place over the weekend. I understand the impatience, the frustration of Canadians who faced systemic discrimination and racism throughout their lives.
Protesters once again defaced a monument to Sir John A. Macdonald because his policies harmed Indigenous culture and people. But Trudeau said the rule of law must be respected. Now the question is, what happens to that damaged statue in Montreal?
Right now, we'll restore and re-put in place the statue. We may have discussions in the next years about changes, but right now the decision is that it will be re-put in place.
Except here's the thing, the statue actually belongs to Montreal, and the city plans to reflect on its ultimate fate. Pieces have been put in storage. Well, just 2 months to go before U.S. voters pick their next president in a country dealing with unrest, protests, and a reckoning over racial injustice. Today, Joe Biden resumed in-person campaigning, and he did it with a pointed attack on Donald Trump. Here's Paul Hunter.
Joe Biden, under attack for the past week by Donald Trump, today fired back.
He's rooting for chaos and violence. The simple truth is, Donald Trump failed to protect America. So now he's trying to scare America.
No one will be safe in Biden's America.
It's a message made repeatedly at the Republican convention last week in Washington, despite the fact that the violence now is happening on Trump's watch. Demonstrations sparked by racial injustices have increasingly seen agitators, some armed, some identifying as Trump supporters, confronting protesters. It's led to heightened violence and death.
Does anyone believe there'll be less violence in America if Donald Trump is reelected?
Biden called Trump toxic and labeled Trump's response to what's playing out in America misguided and dangerous.
He may believe mouthing the words law and order makes him strong, but his failure to call on his own supporters to stop acting as an armed militia in this country shows how weak he is.
The violent rioters share Biden's same talking points. And
tonight, Trump seemed to defend one of those apparent supporters, Kyle Rittenhouse, who's now charged with murder, accused of killing 2 people during the unrest in Kenosha, Wisconsin last week. Chased down by those who witnessed one of the killings Rittenhouse stands accused of.
He was trying to get away from them, I guess, it looks like. and he fell, and then they very violently attacked him. I guess he was in very big trouble. He would have been, he probably would have been killed, but it's under investigation.
Trump will visit Kenosha, Wisconsin tomorrow, as the White House put it today, to go to a city where Americans are hurting. The state's governor has urged Trump to stay home, warning his visit may well make things worse. Paul Hunter, CBC News, Washington.
So, as Paul mentioned, Donald Trump heads next to Wisconsin, where people have been protesting since police repeatedly shot Jacob Blake in the back. Susan Ormiston is there tonight. So, Susan, how are people there reacting to Trump's visit tomorrow?
Well, Trump managed to cast himself as the savior of Kenosha before even getting here, tweeting this morning that if it weren't for him insisting on the National Guard coming here, there would be no Kenosha today, which really riled things up in the local county offices today, with one executive saying that's a false statement, that it was the governor who called the National Guard in here long before Trump got involved. But it encapsulates why the governor and the mayor of this city asked the White House not to come, to postpone, thinking that Trump's divisiveness coming here at this time could further inflame tensions just as this city is beginning to calm down. There was no response from the White House. But on the other hand, you know, some of the businesses we've spoken to, like, you know, this car lot here, which was torched during the rioting, and other places which were looted, they're saying they want law and order, and saying that the president's message may resonate here.
And so, Susan, given how, divisive the visit is, why is Trump still going?
Well, it's not to, soothe those who are hurting the most, as Paul was saying, because the Blake family is not meeting with the president. They don't want to. This is politics, Andrew. This is one of the most coveted states in this election. Trump needs Wisconsin in order to do the math on the path to victory. Held for 30 years by the Democrats, Trump won it by the thinnest of margins back in 2016, and he needs it. So in 2 weeks, he will have been here 2 times, while Joe Biden and the Democrats canceled their convention in this state, and Joe Biden hasn't yet come to Wisconsin. He says he might.
Susan Ormiston in Kenosha, Wisconsin tonight. Well, the cleanup continues in Texas and Louisiana after Hurricane Laura. The storm has left behind billions of dollars in damage. At least 19 people were killed in both states. Many communities still dealing with power outages, a lack of supplies. Meanwhile, forecasters are monitoring a new weather system in the Atlantic with potential to strengthen into a tropical storm. Now, the White House had a hand in a historic flight today in the Middle East. The first ever commercial jet trip from Israel to the United Arab Emirates is being touted as a sign of easing tensions in the region. Sasha Petrusik takes a closer look.
Ladies and gentlemen, and welcome. It was heavy on symbolism. Israeli and U.S. officials on a maiden commercial flight with announcements in Hebrew and Arabic, a normally forbidden path over Saudi Arabia, and a landing in the Arab Gulf, enemy territory for Israel over 7 decades. And then a warm welcome from the United Arab Emirates, the Jewish state's newest Arab friend, nudged together by Washington.
The last decades we've had conflict and war and division, and what happened here was 3 great leaders came together and they started writing the script for a new Middle East.
What's in it for Israel and the UAE? Peace leading to prosperity, say the countries.
Exchanges between the Middle East, 2 most advanced economies, and you will see how the sparks fly on this.
Still, this deal between leaders may not represent any greater acceptance of Israel on the streets of the Arab world, says Middle East analyst Janice Stein.
There are military advantages, there are intelligence advantages. Israel is clearly hoping for investment by the Emiratis in the high-tech sector in Israel, but these are invisible to the public.
And, says Stein, it may not lead to further agreements with other Arab states. One thing it does is end a proposal by Israel to annex large parts of the occupied West Bank, a plan that would take land away from Palestinians, a plan the UAE insisted be scrapped. But among Palestinians, none of this is seen as a victory. rather a betrayal by an Arab state which had once vowed not to recognize Israel until it ended the occupation. Peace will not be achieved through bypassing us, says Palestinian President Mahmoud Abbas. Sasha Petrusik, CBC News, Toronto.
COVID cases are spiking in India. The country beat a world record for daily case climb.
We have all the valid documents, and we are still not able to travel, and that is a little bit more frustrating.
Up next, how people living here are trying to get their loved ones out. A toddler caught on a kite and flung through the air. A few frightening moments at a festival in Taiwan. And the NBA bubble gets a little bigger.
Who's that? Oh.
Fred VanVleet's family reunion. We're back in 2. Yeah, it's terrifying moments at a kite flying festival in Taiwan this weekend. A 3-year-old girl was swept up in the air, 30 meters high at one point, after getting tangled in this giant kite. She was whipped around for several seconds, but then ultimately fell back to the ground safely, believe it or not, and with only a few minor cuts. A ceremony in Tokyo marked the unveiling of the Olympic flame display. It'll be showing at the Japanese Olympic Museum until November. The Games, which were scheduled to take place this year, were postponed until next summer due to the pandemic. Well, the rate of new COVID-19 cases has surged this month in India, and those who've left the country to work here in Canada are being frustrated by a bureaucratic backlog, trying to get loved ones here as well. Briar Stewart looks at the situation both in Canada and in India.
2 nurses walked through the narrow lanes of New Delhi to check on a patient who tested positive for COVID-19. On the outside of his building, a sign is posted, noting that someone who lives there is self-isolating. More than 78,000 people tested positive for the virus today, a few hundred less than yesterday, when the country experienced the biggest spike so far.
It is the largest one-day surge in the cases worldwide. And the reason behind this, because the pandemic is spreading in the rural area.
To the south, the mosque has been turned into a clinic because hospitals are overwhelmed. In India, more than 3.5 million people have been diagnosed with COVID-19, and the government says the surge is in part due to more testing. So it's moving to ease restrictions. Starting next week, metro trains, including New Delhi's subway system, can reopen. But even as airports start to add more flights, some trying to make their way to Canada are still stuck.
They need my support now, in this pandemic time. That's why I am planning to go, but unfortunately I can't.
Jittu Nair tried to board a flight to Toronto 2 weeks ago to see his wife and daughter, but was stopped. He's allowed to come to Canada, but needs a letter from immigration officials first and is still waiting. It's the same issue for many others already in Canada trying to bring their family over.
We have a visa, we have all the valid documents, and we are still not able to travel, and that is a little bit more frustrating.
In a statement, the federal government says we've adapted to increase our processing capacity over the last 6 months, and employees are working as quickly as possible to process applications while respecting public health guidelines. So some will continue to wait, watching what happens in India as the country opens up even further. Briar Stewart, CBC News, Vancouver.
Now, India currently has reported the world's 3rd highest number of coronavirus cases. It's not far behind Brazil, which has 3.8 million, but the U.S. still leads in the number of known cases, topping 6 million. Worldwide, the total has crossed the 25 million mark, with the number of deaths just passing 848,000. Well, next on The National, exploring a bold and ethically complicated method of testing a vaccine, deliberately making people sick to see if the vaccine works.
It felt like a tangible way that I, as just an ordinary citizen, might be able to contribute meaningfully.
They're called human challenge trials. Up next, we'll go in depth on the science, and we'll meet the volunteers who are eager to sign up. Welcome back. The speed and scale of the global hunt for a coronavirus vaccine is unprecedented. That's because every day without one means further delays to our eventual return to normal. So enter the idea of human challenge trials. It is the ethically complex idea of testing vaccines by deliberately making people sick, giving them the vaccine, then infecting them with the virus. As a practice, it is not the norm, but it's not uncommon either. Look back to 1796 for a bit of epidemiological folklore. Edward Jenner makes his case for a smallpox vaccine by injecting both the vaccine and the deadly virus into an 8-year-old boy. It works. The vaccine proven almost overnight. Was it efficient or reckless? The answer is complicated, just like the debates around every challenge trial that's happened since. Typhoid, cholera. These volunteers, arms resting on those cups, they're filled with malaria-infected mosquitoes. And yes, they're being bitten. Even the fight against influenza has benefited from challenge trials. And in a global pandemic, scientists and ethicists are carefully, feverishly weighing the benefits of a faster vaccine against the risks of making people sick, possibly exposing them to long-term harm. But consider the inertia of urgency. A group called One Day Sooner, with 15 Nobel laureates and dozens of other prominent researchers, ethicists, and philosophers, has penned an open letter petitioning the US government to begin preparations for challenge trials immediately. One of those signatories, Nir Eyal. He's a bioethicist at Rutgers and a supporter of large-scale trials happening as soon as possible. Okay, so let me start with the biggest question. What is the best argument you can make in favor of undertaking human challenge trials?
There is enormous humanitarian gain from getting to a vaccine faster. Human challenge trials would expedite things a bit if everything went well in the regular conventional phase 3 trials that are going on right now. If everything doesn't go well, if specifically what happened in the UK in the spring recurs, namely that by the time the trial gets going, the bulk of community spread moves elsewhere to a different location, and they need to reboot and restart elsewhere, which is what they did. That's why they started in Brazil and the US and in South Africa. Then human child trials really save many months, and that's very significant.
Right, because the point you're making there is that when you enter phase 3 clinical trials and you vaccinate a whole number of people, you're relying on them getting sick or being exposed to the virus naturally in their own environment.
Exactly. In human challenge trials, there is the certainty that people will be exposed. That's why you need far, far fewer volunteers. That's why you know that you will get results once you start very soon thereafter.
So tell me, how do these trials actually work? I mean, what do they look like? How do you deliberately infect someone with the coronavirus?
There are different techniques for doing that. Usually they use nasal inoculation, basically a swab with the virus culture up a person's nose. It's not very painful or invasive. Before you do that, you randomize people to people who would get the vaccine and people who will get control. And what you're looking for, just like in conventional trials, to see differences between the two arms, the people who got the vaccine and the people who got the controls. Only in a challenge trial, you know that people will have been exposed to the virus. You got a very small group of volunteers. You need to select them so that it will be people with very low risk for any adverse results from the infection to expose themselves to the virus. And very soon thereafter, you have results and you can save literally thousands of lives every day if we end this pandemic that one day sooner.
I understand the benefits, I think, but help me understand the risks involved as you mentioned them, because I mean, what if you get someone not just sick, but seriously sick? I mean, we know that even young people who are more resilient to the virus, they can be hospitalized, they can require intensive care, and they can die.
Yeah, that is absolutely true. It could happen in this trial. It's also something that could happen in the conventional trials. There would be more deaths, actually, in the conventional trial, simply because it's for 30,000 people, including many who are old and at high risk for complications following coronavirus infection. And for a challenge trial, we would always select only people who are very young adults who can give high-quality informed consent. They're not children, but who are at very low risk. They don't have any concomitant conditions that make them likelier to suffer complications. We are now in pandemic. We are facing thousands of deaths directly every day from COVID, and I'm not even going into the thousands and thousands of deaths from the cancer, elective services that are currently avoided, what the UN calls famines of biblical dimensions that are expected around the world because of economic strife. I don't love the risks. I would have preferred it if this was without risks, but risks exist. Risks exist, by the way, in the toxicity trials that the vaccine candidates we're currently testing have already undergone. Medical trials carry risks. They're not part of the care of the participant. They're something we do to advance global health. And in this case, it's perfectly justified, I think, on balance, to promote global health in this very crucial way through subjecting willing volunteers with fully informed consent to that risk.
On a maybe more practical level, when you look at the degree of vaccine skepticism that exists in the world right now, I mean, in the hands of a critic or a doubter, if something were to go seriously wrong, what do you think about the potential harm there to vaccine science and to the confidence in vaccines?
We don't know what would move vaccine skeptics. I say let's do the right thing. Let's make it very visible that we're seeking informed consent. Some colleagues and I have conducted the only survey I know around the world in 6 different countries with thousands and thousands of participants around people's willingness to tolerate challenge trials. And the answer so far is that around the world, there is overwhelming support for conducting challenge trials in the wider public. So some of the worry about the public's response, I think, is based on more speculation than about empirical evidence. Better do the right thing, explain it, communicate it very well to the public with public health communications expertise, and hope that this would work.
All right. Professor Eyal, it's been very good to talk to you. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Now, as you heard, human challenge trials rely on volunteers. The same organization, One Day Sooner, pushing for challenge trials, it's also collected more than 34,000 signatures from 150 some countries, all potential volunteers to take part and extend an arm for science. We want to hear from some of them.
My name is Connor. I'm 27 years old. I'm a library technician and I live in Kelowna.
Hi, my name is Wendy Kwong. I'm 51 years old and I work as a dentist in Vancouver.
My name is Dean Stewart. I'm 29 years old and I'm currently living in the town of Truro in Nova Scotia.
I expressed interest in a human challenge trial because I think the risks to me are far outweighed by the potential gains to everybody.
I think it boils down to whether we take calculated risks and accelerate the development of the vaccine.
There's also this sense, and I think a lot of people can relate to it, this sense of a loss of control right now. Being able to participate in a human challenge trial that felt like a tangible way that I, as just an ordinary citizen, might be able to contribute meaningfully.
There are about 5,000 people dying per day from coronavirus right now, and none of those people were able to consent to that risk. I'd much rather that me and a few other volunteers with informed consent take on that risk so some of those people don't have to die in the future.
When you see that volunteers from other countries are being tested for a vaccine that we may end up benefiting from, I think that it is only right that I contribute to this international effort.
Interesting discussion, to be sure. Still ahead on The National, finding opportunity amid uncertainty. Some Indigenous families are finding COVID-friendly classroom alternatives close to home. But next, we get answers to your COVID-19 questions, including this one. Is Canada in a good place as far as vaccine procurement when a vaccine becomes available? Big topic in the news today. We'll be back right after this. Welcome back. Time again for your COVID-19 questions, and Dr. Lenora Saxinger is back with us to help us answer some of those questions. Hello again, Dr. Saxinger. We'll start with a question about the V word. When is a vaccine going to be ready, and what is the current status of development?
So this is a very active area right now. There's well over 140 vaccines in trials. I think there's at least 6 or 7 in phase 2-3 trials, and there's some front runners. I actually think that the best we would imagine would actually really be in early 2021 to have a vaccine that's been tested fully. I would be happy to be proven wrong about that, but I think that we really want to make sure that they go through all the stages to make sure that the vaccine is safe and effective before licensing it. And we might actually end up with more than one vaccine, actually, and I think that would be fine. I think that would be excellent.
Right. And so in the meantime, though, until we get to early next year, hand hygiene, physical distancing, all those remain of the utmost importance. Another question for you. Is Canada in a good place as far as vaccine procurement when a vaccine becomes available? And of course, we heard the news today about the deals with Johnson & Johnson and Novavax.
Right. And I think that there's a lot of jockeying for position with the available vaccine candidates, and everyone's trying to bet on winning horses, so to speak. I think it's important to have a number of different options available. And another option that we shouldn't forget about is the possibility of home manufacture by getting a license to manufacture. So I think it's kind of early to tell, but my overall feeling is that the appropriate steps are being taken and that you have to just be prudent and try to get in there as soon as it seems reasonable to line up some vaccine, recognizing that that might not end up being a candidate that works very well in phase 3 trials.
And is it possible that, I mean, all 4 of the deals that Canada has, that they all might fail? None of the vaccines work?
I guess it's possible, but I don't think it's probable. I think that most of the data so far on all the different vaccine platforms is mostly encouraging that there will be effectiveness. The degree of effectiveness and which group it might work best in might vary between vaccines. And so I think having more than one option is a good idea. And I'm actually still very optimistic that there will be effective vaccines reasonably soon, especially given that the pandemic isn't that old already.
Last question, we've got about 30 seconds for it. Could getting the flu vaccine this year potentially increase the likelihood of acquiring COVID-19?
That seems awfully unlikely to me for a whole bunch of different reasons. They're very unrelated viruses. They are transmitted in a similar way, and so the things we do to prevent flu should also help prevent COVID. But I could see no reason why a flu vaccine would impact your likelihood to get COVID-19. And in fact, we're hoping for a light flu season if everyone's doing everything the way that we hope they are, honestly.
Okay, well, that's a question we've gotten an awful lot, so I'm glad you were able to take that one on. Dr. Saxinger, always good to have you on the program. Thanks so much.
Thanks.
And as you know, we like to ask your questions about COVID-19 as often as possible, so send them our way. You can message us directly on Instagram at CBC The National, or you can send us an email at covid@cbc.ca. Now, throughout this pandemic, CBC News has been sharing the stories of Canadians lost to COVID-19. We call the project Lives Remembered. Tonight, Evelyn Knowles is remembered by her granddaughter.
My name is Lindsay Knowles Johnstone, and I am the granddaughter of Evelyn Knowles, who died of COVID-19 April 15th, 2020. My grandma was the most selfless person I have ever met. She volunteered countless hours in her home community, gardening and serving others in any way she possibly could. My grandparents traveled abroad to volunteer to such countries as Haiti, Burundi, Sri Lanka, and Japan, where my grandpa, a civil engineer, would build schools and my grandma would sew hospital linens for the less fortunate. Her generosity was infectious, as my grandma inspired me to take a gap year and serve my community. My grandmother got married at 19 to my grandpa, and they had the most beautiful and strong marriage that I have ever seen. My grandparents had 2 children and 3 grandchildren. Unfortunately, in my grandmother's later years, she developed dementia and was losing the ability to speak. However, that never stopped me from having a connection, as I connected through playing fiddle music for her, where she would tap her feet and smile to the music. My grandma was so special to me, and I was not able to say goodbye to her. But if I could say goodbye, I would want her to know how much she inspired me and that she will be loved and missed by me for the rest of my life.
More than 9,100 Canadians have died after contracting COVID-19. You can see more of their stories online at cbc.ca/remembered. Okay, still ahead on the national. The NBA bubble opens up to some families. Well, if that doesn't melt your heart, I don't know what will. A Raptors family reunion months in the making. We're back right after this. School resumed in the Northwest Territories today, and like their colleagues across the country, teachers are not quite as excited as the kids.
The teachers absolutely have been apprehensive because there's a lot of things that we don't know and we didn't know until a few weeks ago. So it's been hard for them, but they've come out like champs like they always do.
Teachers have to wear plastic face shields indoors, while students must wear masks where physical distancing is not possible. Now, some First Nation schools are trying to make the best of things. They're combining online courses with outdoor education that teaches students traditional skills and knowledge. Ariel Fournier shows us how it works.
This is one of Isabella's classrooms for the year.
I've already learned how to scrape a hide, which was a lot of work.
Instead of going back to school, she's studying online while also learning land-based skills. This time is a lesson in hide scraping from her auntie.
Wow, that's a big moose. And then you're like, okay, well, let's stretch it out.
This project isn't just a workout. She's learning about biology, chemistry, and traditional art. Her mom's also grateful to have Isabella out of a crowded classroom.
We know it's really, really important to pay attention to what experts are saying, to pay attention to our elders' stories. And the elders are telling us that when the leaves fall, it's time for us to bunker down and to stay safe.
You need that fluff as your fire starter.
This elder teaches kids about medicine picking and survival skills right in the city.
It's like being a grandpa, I guess, and you're teaching your grandchildren. Also gratitude that somehow I shared this and I retained this and then I can share it. Because we are a sharing society, we are always trying to share.
This fall, more parents are asking about alternatives. At this Healing Society, they're fielding more calls than ever. And the Assembly of First Nations National Chief sees this as an opportunity.
People think that you can only learn math and science according to a textbook. Well, not necessarily. And so those things should be explored and they should be embraced as alternative teaching methods.
For Isabella, there's nothing better.
School system, it's good-ish, but I like learning on the land.
So if you look at where I'm going...
Several First Nation schools are also expanding land-based programs. So more Indigenous kids have that outdoor learning, like Isabella. Ariel Fournier, CBC News, Edmonton.
And next on the National, our moment.
Who's that?
A Raptors family reunion right after this. Well, NBA players have had a complicated few weeks. Protests against racial injustice, the playoffs, the pandemic, all of it as they live inside a bubble, away from their families to try to keep everyone safe. But that last part is changing. Today, the Raptors were able to bring select family members into the bubble to live with them. And one of those reunion moments is our moment tonight. Fred VanVleet, a star to Raptors fans and to his kids, too.
Dad.
Today, all of them, his children and his partner, are together at last.
I'm just excited. I miss my family. You know, family is huge for me, so it's been a while. I think the last time I saw him was Father's Day, so.
Well, at least that was the last time in person. You may remember these adorable kids from this moment earlier in this month.
Fred VanVleet!
An intro at a game, but still from afar. Now, after a less than stellar performance on the weekend, as they started the second round of the playoffs, the hope is family will soothe the sorrow and help get the team back on track.
It's been a while, but it'll be good to see everybody and, you know, right on time after getting our butts kicked yesterday. So that'll kind of take my mind off of it for a little bit today, and then I'll get prepared and get locked in for the game tomorrow.
Oh.
Oh, well, that's great. So life inside the bubble, it's not simple necessarily. The families actually arrived a week ago in Orlando because they had to quarantine before reuniting with their families. And now that they're in the bubble, they have to undergo daily coronavirus tests. They have to wear masks just like players and staff. But hey, the price of reuniting a family, that's a good trade. That's The National for this Monday, August 31st. Have a great night.